let's talk about courage. Courage to take decisions, courage to go for it, even if you don't have all the answers starting out. Let's just get to it. It's tough.
Oh, I love you, Claudia. It's so much fun.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Top You, a coaching discussion between myself, Claudia Cimenti, founder of Topcoach Luxembourg, and Anna Dannfeld, an awareness coach. Today, we are going to talk about courage, courage to make decisions, courage to just go for it. Let's get started. Anna, hi, good to see you again. Today we said we would talk about courage. Why is this topic also of interest to you today?
Because I need courage to move forward in my life. And I find that to move forward with something and not knowing where it's going to go, I usually have the courage because I just go for things. But now I'm dealing with things that I'm very unknowledgeable in, like the whole tech thing and so. And then I find that I need extra courage to dare believe that I can do this, because I'm really dealing with something I don't know. And so this has been coming up to really say, just do it, and then just do it. It's like holding on to my hand and sliding on a banana peel.
Yeah, it's true, right? Because I think that we can make the distinction between hesitating sometimes because of built-in uncertainty, but maybe in essence there are things similar to things we have already been through. On the other hand, sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. Like, you do not know what kind of technical requirements are going to come your way and so on. So it's very dissimilar to things you have dealt with up to now. And that needs a different kind of courage, right? Because it's much more unknown than maybe some other experiences you had. Is that something you can relate to?
Oh, totally, because I'm a very courageous person. And I've been doing things from courage, like leaving Sweden from Luxembourg out of the blue, leaving Luxembourg for France out of the blue, which of course was the second time I did that. So I have a lot of courage to take chances and take risks. But then again, I love not knowing. I like being in the space of, I don't know, and I love surprises. And already with that base, it's easier to have courage because there's an excitement in it. It's a little tickle, so that's fine. But then dealing with this, it surprised me how scary it got, because I'm not used to having that kind of, and I don't know, and maybe, and what if, and so then I just have to take one step at a time, just one thing at a time. And I try to not look too far forward. And I think this is a key. Normally I want everything planned out and I can see, okay, I'm going to do that. Now I'm not doing that. I'm just taking one step, learning that, and that leads to the next step, and then learning that, and so on. And that, I think, is not new, but in this area, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think that I might have mentioned already this idea when we talked about decision making. It's like climbing a mountain. Getting to the summit of the mountain is a desirable thing, but it's foggy today, at least on the lower altitudes, and you only see 2 steps in front of you. You have no idea how far the peak of the mountain is, how steep or how difficult the path is going to be up the hill, right? You only see 2 steps in front of you. And then to have this courage to nevertheless not only take those 2 steps, but even start the whole journey and resolve to climb the mountain. It takes courage. And some people, and we have all come across them as coaches, will not start the journey, will not start to climb unless they have the view of the whole thing, and they're going to fly drones, and they're going to get maps, and they're going to talk to other people, and that they're going to forever sit there and wonder, will I be strong enough, will I be resilient enough to actually last that long, right? And in the end, they never start. In the end, they never start. Have you had experience like that with your clients?
I'm good at it, at getting people inspired to believe in themselves. I think is mostly that, say, you can do this. Come on, you can do. I'm also a coach. I mean, I'm an archery coach, a sports coach. So of course that feeds into that. And actually that feeds a lot into that, to give people this sense that, yeah, I can do it. And in Swedish, we have a say, it's from a children program. Ja, jag kan, ja, jag vill, ja, jag törs. And it means, yes, I can, I will, and I dare. And I love it. I think it's from Pippi Langstrumpf or something like that.
Oh yeah, who doesn't love her, right?
Seriously, I mean, I have it as a mantra in my head. I think it's one of the best mottos ever. And also to get them to know that you can take this one first little step, because just doing, just whatever it is, the tiniest thing, just start with the tiniest thing and say, I'll just do this. Because once you're in that little thing, you start going, oh, I'll just do this as well. And this, and this.
Right,
and then
right.
do your little ant steps, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we know that the start is the difficult thing. I mean, how often have we, even in terms of just productivity and performance, said, well, I can do that probably for 5 minutes. So let's start with 5 minutes, and then before you know it, the thing is done, right? So yeah, this first step, and then daring that first step, because very often uh, we 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 try to look and plan too far, which is all nice and good. I'm not against it, right? And especially I think our goals should be reasonably far ahead and reasonably large, and you should have some overarching arc of intent, let's say, in terms of action items and stuff like that. But oftentimes that's not enough, and people get stuck in like the today, the next 5 minutes, the next little thing, and just going over these hurdles, because that's also very often where we feel this discomfort. And who hasn't had this discomfort when signing on the dotted line? You know you want it, like buying something or whatever. You know you want to buy something. You have done all your research. You know exactly the consequences of the payment plans that are going to come and things like that, right? It's all good. You already have made the decision, but you still need that courage to sign on the dotted line and commit to it, right?
Life is a dotted line. That I'm thinking also, you know, I see there's also this other part where there is a, I'm working with a couple of young men right now, and they are sort of stuck in their situation. It's okay, but they're not happy, and they want to go to another country, and they're not sure is it that or this country. And they are into arts, both of them, performing arts, but they're also project leaders, stuff like that. And they have this, like, I said, you have to start. First, pick a country. First, pick one place. And then you don't know if you're into performing arts, maybe go to Berlin. And just one place so you can start researching it. And they say, yeah, but you know, we still want to, because they're in the 30s and they want to have a settled life, and they've been, you know, and I say, but yeah, you got a settled life and you're not happy with it. So if you go off, you kind of say, I'm going to go and create something entirely new, and it's going to be settled from day one, unless somebody gives you a contract and a house and a car and a puppy, right? So you still have to take that chance if you want all of that, wow, and still have this. It doesn't work together. You have to step out of that comfort zone and make this one first decision. And when you've done the research and everything and had a little, you know, pop in and check it out, and so maybe you decide that, no, it's not for us, which is fine. But to just sit there and say, I want something, I don't want this, I want something else, but I don't know. I know what I have, but I don't know what I get. And it's what do you call it when it's filament? What's it called when you become totally lame from it? You know, it just,
Yeah, analysis paralysis, right?
yeah, it's
I mean,
paralysis.
Right, you become paralyzed by this inability to make a decision, the overwhelm of all the different options that lay in front of you,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And
that's
the
one of.
fear, and I think the fear of it not being exactly what you think it wants to be, what it should be. And I say, you never
Well,
know.
guess what? It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be
You
exactly how
just
you
don't
want.
know. And it's, I think
Forget that. Forget that. It's not going to be
it's not going to
It's not
happen.
gonna be like that. No, it's not gonna be
And
like
I
that.
also tell them, you might be surprised that you find exactly what you're looking for, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're looking for. So chances are, taking this chance, giving this your chance, there maybe you make your amazing fortune. You get this wow career that you dreamt of.
It might be.
It might be something entirely different from what you ever thought about, because life is long, you know.
It might be vastly better than anything you could ever have imagined up to now, right?
Yes.
And I think that this daring, this just it's going to be okay. Last calendar year, I thought a lot and practiced a lot with this concept of solutionlessness, to be okay with not having a solution. And for me as a coach, it was also this being okay when my client leaves a session without being any closer to a solution, and being okay with the solutionlessness and being able to just let it be and accept it. It's part of the process. We do not know all the time all the steps and all the options and everything. And sometimes we're lost or we're undecided. And at that moment, not to give up and throw in the towel, but to say, well, maybe it just needs to percolate a little longer. Maybe I have to take some time out. Maybe I need to practice some more self-care. Maybe I need more information. It's okay that right now in this moment I don't know. I'm nevertheless moving forward. Nevertheless moving forward, like stumbling through the fog for the moment, but at least we're moving. At least we're moving, right? Same. You're in the middle of changing your business. I have recently started my private practice, and it's like there's many things you don't know. There's many things you can't plan for. There's all these kind of things, and yet you do it. And yet you do it because in the end you're going to be able to figure it out. Things might not go like you want or like you think, but things are going to go. And nobody knew that COVID would even continue that much more. Nobody knew that there would be a war. Nobody knew that fuel prices would rise. And it's like nobody knows, and yet you deal with it. You have to. I'm not saying people should be reckless. I'm not saying people should be reckless and throw caution into the wind. I think that you should still always move, first of all, in accordance with your own values, but then also safely in an ecological manner. Ecology in this case, in the coaching sense of it, meaning that it's not at the expense of people in your environment. It needs to be kind of fit into your system, into your environment, and then you just do your best with it. What's your take on that?
I agree. I'd like to go back to this part where you say about really doing nothing when you're in this space of I don't know. So there's no point, because I think also that it's a very difficult place to be. So when you're in the I don't know space, it's the risk is that you start just fishing around desperately for anything just to fill that out, because we're also trained as people from very early age that you should do something, you should aspire to something, you should become something, you should do it, so I think this just doing nothing is very hard for us. So the risk is that you start doing things that are totally not okay for you. And it's good to percolate a bit in that, because that's a time that allows your self to contemplate. And now I'm not talking about analyzing. Analyzing is an action. Contemplate is a relaxation, you see, because that's when you can go into yourself and you can start contemplating things, and you find out so much about yourself. And in the Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, he said, and it's also one of these things that stick in my head since I was really, really, really young. He says, there is a time for action and there is a time for rest. When the time for rest comes, rest. Because when time for action comes back, you need to be rested to be able to deal with that. Now, in our society, that time of rest is very stressful unless it is a specific given, this is your holiday. You're allowed to. But if it just happens out of the blue without anybody specifically allowing it, we get all nervous and, oh, I should be doing more. And then when the time for action comes, we're absolutely exhausted from doing basically ridiculous nonsense because we couldn't just allow ourselves to contemplate. And I think it's in contemplation we find the answers to our questions. But contemplation needs time and silence.
Time. And so many people escape into this busyness. Mm-hmm. This busyness, this idle sense of productivity, but ultimately nothing really gets done, or nothing worthwhile, or nothing goal-oriented gets done. It's just that you keep yourself so busy that you do not really deal with what needs to be dealt with. And I think that that's actually one of the really important times when people should consider coaching. Because coaching is a very safe, with a competent coach, of course, right? Gives you a safe, quiet place to do exactly that, to think about things that maybe by yourself you wouldn't think about. I in my personal view, whether it's now in individual coaching or team coaching, the fact that the coach is there, you're having discussions or reflections that otherwise you wouldn't have. And it's true, because it just goes that much further, and you cannot run away into this busyness and into this denial, into this I'm escaping discomfort, and I'm going to just hunker down in the middle of my comfort zone and not move.
Yes, and I think going back to what you said about this is a good time for coaching. Absolutely, because this is a time when we have time to contemplate, because coaching is not out there. Coaching is in here. It needs the contemplation. It needs the landing in the self to understand what goes on. And these things, they don't come just like this. So I think the problem, what happens is a lot of people turn to coaching in the busyness. Oh, this is so busy, now I need help. But then it's like, oh, quick in the coach, or I did my coaching and then back out working, and it's never integrated. It's something that floats on top, and maybe it will become integrated when they have their holidays. But
if the coach does a decent enough job, right?
Yeah,
because
or if they come back.
Well,
it's that also.
Yeah. I mean, it's really true that and that's why it even makes sense to have coaching sessions a little bit further apart, because it needs time to integrate and so on. But often, especially folks this is my experience, that have never really reflected, never really delved that deep, then maybe a weekly session in the beginning would make sense. Once they realize the actual work that's being done during a coaching thing, and that it's mindset work very often and so on, and that needs integration, then very naturally, I find very often the meetings get spaced out to once every 2 weeks or once every 3 weeks, because it just takes that much time to really fully transfer these ideas into the day-to-day practice, right? Yeah. To let it live, to communicate differently, to think differently, to plan differently, to work differently, and so on. And so that all that can also not be rushed, but that changes on an individual basis. I'm sure you have the same experience.
And I think again, it needs time to settle. I mean, it's like when you're whatever, you're losing weight, or you're learning an exercise, or playing the piano, or whatever. It's about learning about yourself. And just because we are ourselves doesn't mean that we have any clue about ourselves, because there is so much hidden depth, you know. So then it takes time, and then it's like practice, practice, practice. You have to, like you said, mindfulness, go back to, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, right. Or just the thing, a really little thing, but it's massive in reality, is changing the way you do something. Simple. Say, for example, you always clean your house from there to there. So clean your house from there to there. It's a game changer. And it can be so hard to remember, because so much we do from habit. And I think that habit is a great destructor of innovation, of ideas, and getting movement, because the habits, it's always been done like that. And I'm not saying habits are not okay. I have habits, and I have habits that I really, really like, because they're part of my contemplation or whatever. I can tune out ironing and stuff like that. I tune out, and my head is free, and I do my business, you know. But that it always has to be like that. I have a friend, and he was so funky back when we were young, and today, oh my God, it's like being with this really strict, tightly bound old man, because the coffee has to be like this, and it has to be up this time, and it has to be there and there. And it's really scary to see what happened to him when he got so bound up in his habits, and they got tighter and tighter and tighter, that he will not move outside of them anymore, ever.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe not maybe make a slight distinction between habits and rigid cognitive patterns, right?
But it's not like that.
Because patterns, habits, I think, if they're positive conscious habits, they can provide you with a positive framework that enable everything else. I would not ever go as far as to say habits can be destroying innovation and creativity and things like that. I think that making things that just need to happen habitual, to get them out of the way in an efficient, positive way, with awareness. I think that is what, with self-knowledge and awareness and self-care, getting those things ironed out will open up space,
Yes,
and freedom in order to be creative and innovative. I think that, like everything in life, habits need to be reviewed. Habits need to be reviewed. They need to adapt to new life circumstances. They need to evolve as we evolve, as our surroundings evolve. But habits in themselves, I think, are good because they free up thinking power and brain space. And if it works for you to clean your house from there to there, and while you're going through the motions of cleaning, you can actually listen to a podcast that teaches you something, because you don't need to think about the cleaning, because you always put the bucket there anyway, and the water, you get it there, and so on. Then why would you need to change it?
I think we're in two different lines. I agree with you on this. I'm talking about when I work with people to help them become more elastic, that try different things. And it's when people are very stuck. Oh, I do not dare. I don't know. By changing things around, and it doesn't have to be all habits, because what you're talking about, I totally agree. Yes, definitely. Like my ironing and the monkey brain and all that. But sometimes it's good to just break things up and do it in a different way, because it triggers cognitive functions in your brain that sometimes actually might be dormant, and that can give new ideas, or this sense of aha. It's like, I'm extremely right-handed. Extremely right-handed, and I was doing these creams. Well, I had to stir, and I hurt my right hand, and I had to stir with my left hand. And seriously, I could not make my left hand go around in a circle in this pot and stir it. It was flopping all over the place. And I was really shocked by how extremely right-hand sided I was and how much it took away from me. So I started training my left-hand side, and it was really difficult. And I had to focus so hard on doing it, and everything became much more complicated and difficult doing that. But what I found was that my physical body got more balanced. I got more relaxed inside once I got into it. But I mean, for the first month or so, I had to remind myself all the time, or you want to have a better, posture, you have to remind yourself once every second, it takes this work. And that's what I mean. It's so easy to go into the habit. If it's that I always walk like this or always sit like this, you can do it in another way, but you have to do it, and you have to focus on it, and you have to think about it. It's not just going to happen because you want it to happen. You see
No.
what I mean?
I taught myself to, I eat with chopsticks like 99% of the time. I do chopsticks and spoon, even though my husband is of Korean descent, but I'm the one eating with chopsticks, right? And try once to eat with chopsticks in your non-dominant hand. It's really challenging, right? But just for fun, I taught myself to do it. But it's really true. Sometimes just doing it differently or taking a different drive to work, taking the scenic route. It opens up other things. Also, I think that playing devil's advocate to yourself can be a very interesting exercise, and really, like, instead of trying to build something, taking the stance and saying, no, I want to destroy it. What would I need to do to really destroy this thing that I'm trying to build? Just to get into another brain space for just a little bit. I think it's these in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, they also call it like this pattern interrupt. Right? We're always in these same grooves that we play. We always have the same story, the same thinking patterns that we kind of follow in our brains. And sometimes interrupting that consciously through some absurd exercise or something like that can really freshen it up, freshen our view, give us a new possibility of perspective as we walk around it. That is true. That is true. But then that also again requires this courage that we talked about earlier. Just like accepting this temporary solutionlessness, moving forward, and just trying different things as we explore. And guess what? Not all of them are going to work. Some are going to make you feel like you were born yesterday, really, but it doesn't really matter because we learn from it. Whether it's successful or not, we learn, and we're better equipped moving forward. And especially the ones that want to have everything decided and ironed out and ready, scheduled to the last minute and so on. They're the ones that have trouble with that. Let's see what kind of music is playing, and I'm sure we're going to be able to dance, right? This kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And I think also just the allowing. Let's see what happens. Oh, I took the wrong turn. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is pretty. I would never have known this otherwise. That oftentimes things that happen that are outside of the planning or habit or whatever it is we're dealing with can also open such amazing doors. And I think it's also a little bit like bringing in others. I want to decorate my room. All I can see is yellow. Then somebody comes and says, oh, you should do it in blue. And I'm like, oh my God, of course, it's perfect.
But it wouldn't have occurred to you, right?
It would never have occurred to me because I was in the yellow. And I'm very, very well aware with, even though I have a very imaginative brain and I'm all over the shop, right? I know that I just see this little tiny piece of the whole circle. That's all I see. If I was a horse, I would see this much, but I'm not a horse. So I just see this, and I'm vaguely on the sides. So bringing in others, that's also, I think to bring in others, coaches, friends, taking ideas from others and accepting that even though they might be diametrically different from yours, they might be exactly the ticket. You see, because I think that's also a part has to do with courage, because very often people say, I want advice on this, and you give them advice and go, oh, no, 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 it doesn't work like that. It has to be like this. And I'm like, well, why are you asking for them? You've already decided. And it's this, and you can sometimes feel this really, that it comes over almost aggressive. And then I know there's fear, so I think that we need courage in so many different parts of our life, from the little changing something today to the huge, oh, I'm gonna sell everything and go to Kuala Lumpur and become a yogi, whatever. It doesn't really matter, big or small, but we need that courage. And I think we need to exercise courage and exercise experiencing change, because you know how it is. If we don't exercise, we lose our muscle.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the very important resilience skills to have, right? Especially when things go wrong and we are put on the spot to make decisions and so on, and just being able to go with the flow. It's just being okay with the unexpected. You can always plan for it, you can always anticipate it, but nevertheless, go ahead and do it. You just touched on something that I believe is very important. Is this these blind spots that we have, and everybody has them. So I think it is always very nice when we can reduce our cognitive limitations, when we can be more cognitive diverse, so to reduce these blind spots, to see a little bit further. And I think the bringing in of others, and with kind of an accepting and a curious mindset, is really the way to do this, to like, oh, look at that, without judgment, right? Just like, look at that, there's other possibilities. I wouldn't have thought about it, but it's actually really interesting, and it has merit. So moving into that, rather than I only get along with people that think exactly like me, and that and some people even go, that look like me, that have the same gender as me, and that think exactly like me. It's a really it doesn't necessarily bring you forward to the same extent. Yeah.
I think it's a bit about adaptability is good. And I think also, I mean, if somebody brings something on my table and I say, I look at everything, because you never know when you find them nuggets, they're always in the most unexpected places. Then you can look and you say, oh, that is like so not for me.
You might still paint it yellow. You might still paint it yellow.
It's not a problem. But it was really nice to get this input. It's nice to get a lot of input, but you still have the personal power to make your decision the way you want it. And I think this is important to know, that I'm always making my own decisions. I decide how much I would be influenced by somebody else, because nobody can sort of forcefully push something into me and make it mine. I have to choose that.
Yeah, it's truly the personal freedom of choice, and we all have it, and we all can exercise it at any moment. Yes, you might have expectations from the outside, you might have requirements, you might even have stuff forced upon you, but ultimately doing or not doing is your decision. Yeah, awesome. Did you have something to add at this moment, Anna, or are we good with this episode for today? Perfect. Thanks everybody for watching. If you like this friendly banter between Anna and myself, please do hit that subscribe button and hit that notification icon so you do not miss any future episodes. And if you have questions or suggestions for future show topics, let us know. Go to www topcoachluxembourg.lu/YouTube and drop me a line. Until next time, it was a pleasure, Anna, and everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.